It was a quiet Thursday evening. Marian D'Souza, a 62-year-old retired school teacher, carried two heavy grocery bags as she walked slowly toward her front porch. Her knees ached from the long walk, but her heart felt unusually light. She had spent the entire afternoon selecting little things her daughter loved: fresh strawberries, jasmine tea, and the soft sesame biscuits she used to crave as a child. It wasn't even a special occasion. Marian just missed her. Her daughter, Lydia, had been distant lately. Not rude, not cold, just absent. Like her mind lived somewhere she never spoke about. And Lydia's husband, Rowan, an ambitious, sharp-jawed man with a business grin that never quite reached his eyes, had become harder to read with every passing month. But Marian never imagined anything was wrong. Not until that evening. She stepped onto the first wooden stair of her porch and froze mid-breath. Voices. Low. Urgent. Coming from inside her living room. The curtains were half open just enough for the sound to slip out and hit her like a cold wind slicing across her spine. At first, Marian smiled. Perhaps Lydia had come home early. Maybe Rowan was with her. Maybe they were discussing weekend plans. But then she heard her daughter's voice. Sharp. Shaking. Not like Lydia at all. "If she finds out, we're done, Rowan. She can't know anything. Not now." Marian's lips parted slightly. A strange sting spread across her palms, where she clutched the grocery bags too tightly. Find out what? She remained still, her breathing quiet, almost invisible. Rowan's voice came next, steady, controlled, the way a man speaks when he believes he is the smartest person in the room. "Then we make sure she doesn't find out. Simple." A long silence followed. Marian felt a pulse hammering behind her ear. Her daughter's voice, now a trembling whisper. "You don't mean that. You can't mean that, Rowan." Another short pause. Then Rowan exhaled, a cold, condescending sound. "Lydia, open your eyes. As long as she's here, everything is at risk. Everything we've worked for. She could ruin all of it without even trying." Marian blinked slowly. She? Everything at risk? Her mind began stitching their words into shapes she didn't want to recognize. Rowan continued, his tone turning darker, quieter, almost frighteningly convincing. "There's only one clean way. No loose ends. No questions. One night, one mistake. That's all it takes." The grocery bag slipped from Marian's right hand. It didn't fall. It simply slid out, as if her fingers stopped obeying her. Glass jars inside clinked softly. Not loud enough for the people inside to hear, but loud enough to snap the air around her. Lydia's voice shook again. I can't hurt her. She's my mother." A sudden, sharp scrape, Rowan pushing back a chair. Then his footsteps, slow, heavy. Each step seemed to hit directly against Marian's chest. "You won't have to," Rowan said calmly. "You never could. That's why I'll do it." Marian's lungs collapsed in on themselves. "Do what? Do what? Do what?" Her throat tightened with something unnameable: fear, disbelief, betrayal, love twisting into agony all at once. She took one silent step backward, then another. But the house seemed to pull her in with invisible claws. She had spent 27 years turning that house into a safe place, a home filled with lavender candles, warm quilts, and forgiveness. Now her own heartbeat felt foreign inside its walls. Inside, Lydia spoke again, voice cracking in pain. "Rowan, please, there has to be another way." Rowan's reply was immediate, cutting, cold. "There isn't. I told you, the moment she finds out what we did, everything collapses." Marian clenched her jaw. What they did. Her mind raced through possibilities: money, debts, an accident, forged papers, a hidden affair. Nothing matched. Nothing made sense. Nothing justified the darkness in Rowan's voice. She turned her face slightly toward the window, just enough to see two blurred silhouettes moving. Lydia's hands were shaking. Rowan towered over her, jaw tensed, eyes dead. He touched her shoulder, firm, possessive. "She won't suffer," he said. "Not if we do it right." Marian felt her chest fill with ice. A sudden gust of wind rattled the dry leaves across the porch. She flinched. The bags rustled softly against her leg. And inside, both voices fell silent. Lydia whispered something she couldn't hear. Footsteps approached the living room window. Closer. Closer. Marian stepped back into the shadow of the porch pillar, heart slamming hard enough to betray her. More footsteps. A breath pressed against the thin glass. Rowan's voice, closer now. "Did you hear something?" Lydia. "No, maybe just the wind." Another pause. Then Rowan's quiet suspicion. "Are you sure?" Marian didn't breathe, didn't blink, didn't exist. A long, terrible silence stretched across the doorway, thin as spider silk. Then Rowan's footsteps retreated. Marian felt her knees weaken. She forced herself down the porch steps without making a sound, each step heavier than the last. She reached the bottom, pulse roaring in her ears. Her mind screamed 1,000 scattered thoughts. They're planning something. They're scared I'll discover something. They're talking about hurting someone. And that someone is me. She wanted to run. She wanted to scream. She wanted to burst through the door and demand, "What are you planning? What did you do? Why are you talking about killing me?" But instead, she slowly moved toward the far side of her house, keeping close to the hedge, her breath trembling, every sense sharpened by terror. She needed to think. She needed to breathe. She needed to survive the night. And above all, she needed to know the truth. Whatever it was. Whatever they had already done. Whatever they were willing to do next. Marian pressed her back against the cold outer wall of the house, her breath shivering in and out of her lungs. She had taught thousands of students across decades. She had handled rebellious teenagers, furious parents, budget cuts, grief, heartbreak, and life's heavy disappointments. But nothing in 62 years had prepared her for this moment. The moment she realized her daughter, her only child, might be part of a plan to destroy her. A thin trail of cold sweat slid down her spine. The wind rustled the jacaranda branches above her, scattering lilac petals across the yard, like fragile confetti from a celebration she was no longer invited to. She gripped the wall, grounding herself, forcing her pulse to slow. Then her mind snapped to one clear thought. Why would Lydia be afraid that I might find out something? Her hands trembled. Her breath stung. Her chest tightened as though an invisible fist were collapsing her ribs. She needed to know what they had done, what they were hiding, what exactly she wasn't supposed to find out. She closed her eyes and listened. Inside the house, the murmurs resumed, softer, steadier, as though Lydia and Rowan believed the moment of danger had passed. Rowan's voice returned first, low and firm. "We finish this before Sunday. No delays." It's Sunday. Today was Thursday. 3 days. 3 days until... Marian swallowed hard. Until what? Until they killed her? Her fingers curled into the wall, nails digging into the old paint. Lydia's reply came shaky, helpless, almost childlike. "I don't want to lose you, Rowan. I just wish there was another way." Her voice cracked on the last word. Marian's heart twisted painfully. Lydia sounded terrified, not just of Marian discovering the truth, but of Rowan himself, like she was balancing on a wire stretched across a canyon, one wrong word away from a fall she wouldn't survive. Rowan stepped closer. I could hear the shift in the floorboards. "Look at me," he said, his voice soft but poisonous. "Everything we've built, everything you want, depends on this. One mistake, one loose end, and we lose everything. Do you understand? Everything." Lydia didn't respond. Rowan continued, his tone tightening. "If she finds out about the account, about the withdrawals, about what happened that night..." Marian inhaled sharply. Account? Withdrawals? What happened that night? Her thoughts spun. She had no idea what account they were talking about. She had no idea there were withdrawals. And that night, her mind tried to reach for any memory, any clue, but came up empty. Rowan continued, "We can't let her open that envelope. I told you to keep it hidden." The word sliced through her. Marian's knees nearly gave out. Envelope? Her eyes widened as a sudden memory surfaced. This morning, while retrieving a casserole dish from the top kitchen cabinet, she had found a small cream envelope tucked near the back. She hadn't opened it. She assumed it was one of Lydia's old cards or receipts. She placed it on the counter, intending to check it later. But when she left for groceries, it wasn't there. Was that the envelope? The one Rowan said she can't open? A chill pierced through her. What's inside it? Why hide it from me? Why would it ruin everything? Then Rowan's next words hit like a blade dipped in ice. "If she figures out the money is gone, she'll go to the police. You know she will. She's moral. Too moral. She'll think it's her duty." Marian's breath fully caught in her throat. Money, police, duty. Pieces rearranged in her head like a puzzle she hadn't known she was solving. They stole something. Something big. And they thought she'd discover it. She was suddenly aware that her entire future, her safety, her life, now depended on uncovering what Lydia and Rowan were desperate to keep buried. Inside, Lydia's sob broke the silence. "Rowan, killing her won't fix what we did. It'll just make it worse." Rowan whispered back, voice colder than winter steel. "Dead people can't talk." Marian pressed a hand to her mouth, smothering a gasp. She felt the world tilt slightly, not from dizziness, but from betrayal so deep it felt like drowning inside her own heartbeat. She had given Lydia everything: her youth, her strength, her savings, her forgiveness, her love. She had raised her alone after her husband died. She had taught her kindness, morality, empathy, responsibility. And yet here she was, discussing her death. Marian wanted to believe Lydia was trapped, coerced, manipulated, forced into a corner by Rowan's iron control. But the fact remained, Lydia didn't say no. She didn't leave. She didn't scream. She didn't run to protect her. She stayed. She participated. A cold silence washed over Marion's heart. Not hatred, not anger, just an ache so deep she felt hollow. She sank slowly into a crouch beside the wall, drawing her knees closer as her mind raced faster than her heartbeat. She needed a plan. She needed to survive the night, and she needed to find that envelope. A sudden sound jolted her. A door opening. Footsteps approaching, toward the back of the house. Marion ducked lower, hugging the shadows. Her breath quivered. Rowan's voice drifted out into the night. "I'll check outside, just in case." Her blood froze. Rowan was coming outside. He was looking for a noise, looking for someone, looking for her. She pressed her back deeper into the shadows, her pulse pounding so violently she feared the sound alone would give her away. Rowan stepped onto the back porch. The door creaked. The light flickered on. Warm yellow spilled across the yard. His shadow stretched long across the grass. Tall, sharp, monstrous. Marion clamped her hand over her mouth. Rowan scanned the yard with a calculating stare. "Hello?" he called softly, almost playfully, the voice of a predator pretending to be harmless. "Is someone there?" His shoes crunched across the gravel. He took one step down the stairs, then another, getting closer. Each step felt like a countdown. Marion's breath thinned. Her hands trembled around her own silence. Rowan's shoes stopped just 1 meter from where Marion stood hidden behind the hedge. He paused, listened. The world held its breath along with Marion. Then Rowan exhaled faintly, almost amused. Must have been an animal." He turned. His shadows shifted. He walked back toward the porch. Step, step, step. Then he stopped. Marion's heart dropped. Rowan turned his head slightly, as though he sensed something. A presence, a watching, a breath not meant to exist. He whispered into the darkness. "Whoever it is, you're not going to ruin this for us." A chill wrapped around Marion's spine like a rope. Rowan waited another second, then finally went inside, closing the door with a soft final click. Marion exhaled shakily, her lungs collapsing with relief and terror at once. She pushed her trembling fingers through her hair as realization hit. She couldn't stay here. Not tonight. Not while they were planning to kill her. She needed to leave, quietly, invisibly, before Rowan decided to check again. But first, she needed that envelope, because it was the key, the reason, the truth. Everything they were hiding, everything they feared she would discover. She stood slowly, silently, her eyes fixed on her house, the home she had built with decades of love, now hiding secrets sharper than knives behind its walls. She wiped her eyes, straightened her spine, and whispered to the night, "I will not die in my own house." Marion waited until the porch light flicked off again and the shadows reclaimed the yard. Only then did she take her first step away from the wall. Slow, steady, quiet. Her breath wavered, a trembling line held between fear and resolve. The back gate creaked softly as she pushed it open, and she winced. Every sound felt like it could betray her, like Rowan was already standing behind her with that cold voice and colder intent. But the night held still. She crossed the neighbor's yard, staying pressed against the fence, her mind racing through everything she'd overheard. Every word, every implication, every threat. When she reached the sidewalk, she didn't dare look back at her house. Her home no longer felt like hers. It felt like a trap she had narrowly escaped from. She pressed a hand to her chest, steadying her breath, then forced her feet to move. One step, then another, toward the dimly lit street. She needed someplace safe, someplace Rowan wouldn't expect. As she walked, the night peeled open memories of Lydia like old photographs. Lydia as a child running barefoot through sprinklers. Lydia falling asleep on her chest after nightmares. Lydia clutching her hand on the first day of kindergarten. Warm memories, full of innocence. Now those same memories felt like ghosts tugging at her ribs, whispering questions she didn't want to answer. How did we get here? When did she change? Was it Rowan? Or was the darkness always there? A tightness formed in her throat. She shook the thoughts away and focused on the only thing that mattered. Find the truth.
Find the envelope. Find a way to survive. By the time she reached the old community park 2 blocks away, her legs were shaking. Not from exhaustion, but from adrenaline still pulsing through her. The park was empty, lit by 2 flickering lamps and the silver-blue wash of moonlight. Marian eased herself onto a cold metal bench, her breath fogging the air. For several minutes, she just sat, trying to calm the storm inside her chest. Then, slowly, methodically, her mind began to click into a colder, sharper rhythm, the same mental clarity she used as a teacher when chaos erupted in her classroom. No panic, just steps. She fumbled through her purse, pulling out a pen and a small spiral notebook she used for grocery lists and ideas for lessons that would never be taught again. On a blank page, she wrote, "Confirm what was stolen. Find the envelope. Gather evidence. Go to someone who knows what to do. Stay alive until then." Her hand trembled as she wrote that last line. A cold truth washed over her. She wasn't being dramatic. She wasn't overreacting. She wasn't imagining danger. Her daughter's husband said the words out loud. Dead people can't talk. She stared down at the list again, her eyes burning. Then she added one more line underneath. Step 6. Never let them see fear. She snapped the notebook shut, her jaw tightening with a resolve she didn't know she still possessed. A distant sound broke the silence, a car engine turning onto the street. Her hands jumped, her breath froze. She recognized the dent on the back bumper. Rowan's car. Her spine went rigid. The car crept down the block like a predator, sniffing through shadows. Marian ducked behind the bench, heart hammering violently in her throat. The sedan slowed. Her lungs tightened. Please don't stop. Please don't stop. Please. The car rolled past her, slow, searching, then disappeared around the corner. Marian stayed frozen for 10 long seconds, unable to breathe, until the night finally exhaled around her. They were looking for her. They noticed she was gone. A tremor ran through her hands. She had to move. Now. She stood quickly, gripping her bag tighter, and walked toward the main road, streetlights, shops, witnesses. But just as her feet hit the pavement, something caught her eye. A figure. Standing at the far end of the park, half hidden beneath a broken lamp, watching her. She stopped. Her breath caught. The figure didn't move, didn't speak, just stood there like a shadow cut from the night. Too still, too silent, too deliberate. Fear crawled up her spine. She stepped backward, pulse thundering. Then the figure started walking toward her, slowly, purposefully. Marian turned and ran,
Her feet pounded against the concrete, each step echoing through the empty streets. She didn't look back, couldn't look back. She just kept running, her lungs burning, her chest tight, her vision shaking. She reached the main road and stumbled into the glow of headlights. A startled driver honked and braked hard. Marion gasped for air, bracing herself on a streetlight pole, her heart slamming against her ribs. She turned. The figure was gone. The park was empty once more, moonlight staring back at her like an indifferent witness. Had it been Rowan? Someone he sent? Her imagination stretched thin by terror? She didn't know. But she knew this. She needed help. Real help. Now. Her mind scanned through people she trusted. There weren't many. But there was one. Ruth Hernandez. Her closest friend for 20 years, and a former police officer who had retired early due to an injury. Ruth had seen more darkness than Marion could imagine. She would know what to do. Marion fumbled out her phone with trembling fingers. She dialed. The ringtone felt like an eternity carved into sound. Finally. "Marion?" Ruth's sleepy voice answered. "It's almost midnight. Are you okay?" Marion's breath quivered, her throat tightened, and when she spoke, her voice cracked like a fragile window fractured from the inside. "Ruth, I need help." A sharp shift in Ruth's tone, awake, alert, concerned. "Where are you?" "The main road, near Kennedy Park." "Stay where you are. I'm coming right now. Don't move." The line went dead. Marion slid down the streetlight pole, her legs finally giving way. She wrapped her arms around herself as cold wind swept through the empty street. For the first time since she heard Lydia say the word kill, tears slipped down her cheeks, silent, aching, unstoppable. Not because she was afraid, but because she knew something else with painful certainty. Whatever Lydia and Rowan had done, whatever secrets they were hiding, whatever money they stole, whatever envelope they were terrified of her opening, it was big enough, dark enough, dangerous enough, that killing her felt like their only way out. She buried her face in her hands, trembling, and whispered to the night, "Lydia, my baby, what have you done?" Within 15 minutes, the crunch of tires against gravel reached Marion's ears. Ruth's car pulled up, headlights cutting sharp lines through the darkness. "Marion!" Ruth called, stepping out, her flashlight sweeping the empty street. Marion jumped, relief and terror colliding. She ran toward her friend, her knees nearly buckling. "Get in, quickly," Ruth commanded, her voice low but urgent. "Tell me everything, but fast. Every word matters." Marion slid into the passenger seat, still trembling. Ruth's hands moved with practiced precision, checking the locks, scanning shadows, gripping the wheel like she expected trouble to follow every curve of the road. They were plotting," Marion said, her voice cracking. "Lydia, Rowan, they want to—" She stopped, gulping, trying to breathe through the panic. "They want to hurt me, or worse, and the envelope, it's gone." Ruth's jaw tightened. Her eyes, trained for years to detect lies and danger, didn't waver. "Gone? What envelope? What are you talking about?" Marion exhaled sharply. "The one with all the documents. They said things I can't even believe they would—" Her words faltered under the weight of horror. Ruth's hands clenched the wheel. "Stay calm. Listen. We don't panic. We strategize. Who else knows?" "No one. I swear. No one. It's just me. I heard them. I ran. They saw me. I think Rowan was looking for me." Ruth didn't speak immediately. Her mind was already calculating every possible risk, every potential trap. The years in uniform had left her with instincts sharper than steel. Good. Then we're starting with you safe. That's step 1. Step 2, evidence. Step 3, authorities. Step 4, stop them before they try something. Understood? Marion nodded, too terrified to speak, gripping the seat tightly as Ruth started the engine. The drive was tense, silent but for the hum of the tires against asphalt. Marion's mind replayed every detail of the conversation she had overheard. Rowan's calm, cold cadence, Lydia's hesitant but complicit words, the mentions of sedatives, threats, the plan to eliminate obstacles. Her stomach churned at every memory. Every word was a hammer against her chest. They reached Ruth's small apartment a few miles away. The building was old, inconspicuous, the perfect hideout. Ruth unlocked the door and ushered Marion inside. Sit. Lock everything. No one gets in. Marion obeyed, sliding onto the couch, still quivering. Ruth moved through the apartment, activating cameras she had installed during her police years, setting up a secure line to her old contacts. Listen, Ruth began, voice firm, commanding attention. We're not dealing with normal thieves. This is organized, calculated. They know the law. They know what they can get away with. And they won't hesitate to hurt you. Marion shivered, nodding, her hands pressed to her face. I can't believe they're my family. My daughter. Ruth crouched in front of her, eyes sharp. Family or not, that doesn't matter. Right now, it's survival. They're dangerous. They want that envelope, and they think nothing will stop them. But we will stop them. Step by step, methodically. You have to trust me. Marion nodded again, the tears slipping freely now. She felt raw, fragile, like she had been stripped of every illusion. Ruth stood, pacing slightly, already thinking several moves ahead. First thing, we need proof. Everything you heard, every word, we're recording, documenting, everything. Then we contact the right authorities. No mistakes. One slip, and they'll vanish with the envelope, and they won't stop at threats. Marion's stomach knotted. I have a recorder. I hid it in my bag when I ran. Ruth's eyes narrowed. Good. That's step 1. Step 2, what's in the envelope? Marion swallowed hard. Financial papers, documents, secrets. I don't even know all of it. But they were terrified. Terrified that I would see it. That's why... Her voice broke, and she left the sentence hanging. Ruth's expression hardened. That's enough. It tells us exactly how serious this is. We're not just chasing missing documents. We're chasing something they fear, something worth killing for. And they've planned. They've plotted. They'll do anything to get it. For several minutes, silence fell over the apartment, the only sound, the distant hum of the city at night. Marion's mind raced, piecing together fragments of conversations, timing, threats. Then Ruth spoke again, low and controlled. We'll start tonight. Step 1, catalog everything you know. Step 2, create a timeline. Step 3, catch them in the act. No guesses. Evidence is everything. Marion nodded, determination slowly replacing fear. Every muscle in her body was tense, every nerve awake. She had overheard the plan, the plot, the sedative, the betrayal. She had the advantage of knowledge, and for the first time, she allowed herself a spark of hope. Ruth crouched next to her again. Listen, Marion, you're not alone. I've dealt with monsters like them before, and we will not let them win. Not tonight. Not ever. But you have to promise me something. Marion looked up, wide-eyed, desperate. Anything. Promise me you won't act impulsively. Every move is calculated. One wrong step and they could vanish. Or worse. I promise, Marion whispered. Ruth reached over, gripping her shoulder with an iron steadiness. Good. Then we begin. Step 1. Replay everything you heard, word for word. We record it. Every inflection, every threat, every plan. We need proof before we confront them. Marian nodded, pulling the small recorder from her bag. Hands shaking, she pressed play. The room filled with the chilling, unmistakable voices of Rowan and Lydia, plotting in low, deliberate tones. Every word cut into Marian's chest like a knife. But she sat rigid, absorbing it, memorizing every detail. Her daughter, her own child, planning murder. The thought was unbearable, yet in that unbearable thought was clarity, evidence, power, a path forward. Marian whispered under her breath, "I won't let them win. Not them, not ever." Ruth's hand squeezed hers. "Good. That's the spirit. Now we prepare. Tomorrow we move. But tonight we survive, and we watch. Every move they make will be their downfall." Outside, the city slept. But in that small apartment, lights dimmed, cameras set, hearts pounding, a plan was being forged. A plan that would turn the tables in ways Rowan and Lydia could never imagine. And somewhere, in the darkness, the envelope, the key to it all, waited. Marian pressed her back against the cold outer wall of the house, her breath shivering in and out of her lungs. She had taught thousands of students across decades. She had handled rebellious teenagers, furious parents, budget cuts, grief, heartbreak, and life's heavy disappointments. But nothing in 62 years had prepared her for this moment. The moment she realized her daughter, her only child, might be part of a plan to destroy her. A thin trail of cold sweat slid down her spine. The wind rustled the jacaranda branches above her, scattering lilac petals across the yard, like fragile confetti from a celebration she was no longer invited to. She gripped the wall, grounding herself, forcing her pulse to slow. Then her mind snapped to one clear thought. Why would Lydia be afraid that I might find out something? Her hands trembled, her breath stung. Her chest tightened as though an invisible fist were collapsing her ribs. She needed to know what they had done, what they were hiding, what exactly she wasn't supposed to find out. She closed her eyes and listened. Inside the house, the murmurs resumed, softer, steadier, as though Lydia and Rowan believed the moment of danger had passed. Rowan's voice returned first, low and firm. "We finish this before Sunday. No delays." Marian pressed pause on the recorder and began jotting down everything she remembered. Rowan mentioning the sedative, Lydia hesitating but agreeing, the envelope and its contents being critical, specific plans to isolate Marian. Each line of notes deepened the horror. Each line also sharpened the plan. Hours passed. Shadows shifted across the apartment as the city outside quieted into a deceptive stillness. Marian's initial fear began to solidify into a tense, icy determination. She could not, would not, let Rowan and Lydia succeed. Not now, not ever. Ruth watched her, evaluating her resolve. "You're scared, but fear is useful. It makes you sharp, focused. We'll channel it." Marian swallowed. I never thought, my own child, planning murder, and all for that envelope. Why would something so valuable make them like this? Ruth's voice was low, precise, controlled. "Because it's not just value, Marian. It's power, secrets, control. The envelope is the key. And that key is why they've risked everything, and why they'll risk more if we let them." Marian nodded. Her fingers gripped the edge of the desk. "So, tonight, what do we do first?" Ruth leaned in, eyes piercing. "Tonight, we observe. We prepare. Step 1, ensure they can't reach you. Step 2, set traps. Cameras, recording devices, secure exits. Step 3. Predict their moves. Every step they take must be anticipated. Marian exhaled, a mix of fear and resolve tightening in her chest. She understood now that survival wasn't enough. She needed control, precision, and patience. Every instinct she had screamed that Rowan and Lydia would not wait. They would act, soon, and recklessly. Hours later, the apartment was fortified. Cameras discreetly placed, devices recording the empty streets, lines of communication with Ruth's trusted contacts secured. Marian and Ruth sat in tense silence, listening, waiting.
Then, faintly, through the night air, a sound, a soft scrape against metal, a hushed voice outside the building. Marian's stomach dropped. "Shh," Ruth whispered, her hand on Marian's arm. "Listen carefully." Outside, the shadows moved. A figure crouched near the streetlight, scanning the building. Ruth's hand went to her belt, her fingers brushing the edge of the flashlight and the small taser she always carried. "Rowan," Marian whispered. Fear and disbelief collided. "He's here." Ruth nodded, eyes never leaving the window. "Stay calm. Don't make a sound. Let him make the first mistake." The figure moved closer, slow, deliberate. Every footstep against the pavement echoed in Marian's chest like a drum. She felt trapped, exposed yet powerless. And yet, inside her, a spark of something fierce, unyielding was igniting. Ruth's eyes met hers. "Remember, Marian. Patience. Observation. Evidence. They act first, we respond second. Always controlled." Minutes passed. Rowan circled the building, flashlight sweeping across windows. He paused near the side entrance, crouched low, muttering under his breath. The words were indistinct, but the intent was clear. He was hunting for something. Her, the envelope, or both. Marian's stomach thumped in her chest like a live drum. Every instinct screamed to run, to scream, to confront. But Ruth's calm presence anchored her. They waited. And in that waiting, the plan began to crystallize. Rowan and Lydia had underestimated Marian. They assumed fear would paralyze her. They assumed Ruth was just a friend. They assumed that patience wasn't a weapon. They were wrong. The night held its breath. Outside, the enemy plotted. Inside, Marian and Ruth prepared. Every camera, every note, every device was part of a silent trap. Every movement, every word recorded. And somewhere in the shadows, beyond the streetlights, Rowan made the first mistake. The night air was thick, almost viscous, pressing against the windows of Marian's apartment as she and Ruth crouched in the shadows of the living room. Every breath sounded too loud, every movement magnified. Rowan's silhouette moved across the street again, flashlight sweeping like a predator marking territory. Marian's hands trembled slightly, but she forced herself to breathe slowly, deliberately. She remembered Ruth's words, her mantra: patience, observation, evidence. They act first, we respond second. Minutes felt like hours. Then, faintly, she heard it. The soft click of a lock, the almost imperceptible scuff of shoes against concrete. Rowan had found the side entrance. Marian's chest tightened, fear and adrenaline clashing violently. She glanced at Ruth. He's trying to get in," she whispered. Ruth's fingers were already on the control panel for the cameras they had installed earlier. Stay low, eyes on the monitors. Watch everything. Every movement counts. Through the grainy night vision feed, Marian saw Rowan kneel, fiddling with the lock. His concentration was absolute, unaware that every motion was being captured.
recorded, saved. Her stomach churned. Should we call someone? Ruth shook her head. Not yet. Let him make the next mistake. This is the evidence we need. One wrong move, one misstep, and it's over for them. But it has to be undeniable. Rowan cursed under his breath. A faint metallic clang echoed through the monitor. He dropped the lockpick. A tiny sound, almost invisible, but enough. Marion felt a flash of hope. They were making errors. Then, the second mistake. His flashlight tilted toward a camera lens, the red recording light blinking quietly. Rowan froze, glanced around, muttering. He didn't see the small recorder in the planter above the entrance. The words he spoke next were slow, deliberate, as if rehearsed but careless. I can't find it. The envelope. She must have moved it. Damn it. Lydia's idea of hiding it was useless. Marion felt bile rise in her throat. Her daughter, Lydia, had already set herself up for failure. Rowan's frustration was raw, primal. He spoke louder, muttering threats now. Every word, every curse, every plan was feeding the recorder, sealing their fate.
Ruth's hand tightened on Marion's shoulder. Good. Keep calm. Let him unravel. Every word, every move, it's our net closing around them. Minutes passed like eternities. Rowan's figure slipped inside the side entrance, thinking he was unseen. The camera feed showed him tiptoeing down the hallway, flashlights scanning for any trace of the envelope. He muttered to himself again, a hiss of contempt and fear, unaware of the multiple recording devices capturing his voice, every syllable. Marion's pulse pounded in her ears. She watched, heart hammering, as he neared the main door of the apartment. Her instinct screamed to act, to confront, to strike, but Ruth's voice cut through. Calm, grounding. Wait. We trap him. Controlled. Nothing reckless. Evidence first. Rowan reached for the doorknob. His hand trembled slightly, small, almost invisible, but enough. Ruth triggered the silent alarm they had installed, a soft chime, nothing audible outside, but recorded internally. Rowan froze, glancing around. Panic crept in. Marion leaned closer to the monitors. He's going to see the cameras. Let him. She doesn't know what they capture. And we have backup. She tapped her phone, sending encrypted footage directly to a secure cloud, time-stamped and protected. Every step Rowan took was now irrefutable evidence. Then, the final move. Rowan opened the main door and stepped inside, flashlight trembling in his hand. His eyes flicked around the apartment, scanning shadows, corners, and every surface. The recorder in the planter above captured everything. Muttered threats, frantic searches, even the first hints of doubt creeping into his mind. Marion's fingers hovered over the emergency line. Should I call it? Ruth shook her head. Not yet. We wait for the envelope. That's the key. When he touches it, moves it, we have everything. The entire conspiracy in one act. Rowan moved toward the small desk where Marion had been taking notes earlier. He crouched, searching frantically, muttering, "Where? She can't have. I'll find it. Nothing's safe." Marion swallowed hard, eyes wide. Every word he spoke was another layer of evidence, another nail in the coffin of their plan. Her daughter's betrayal, her son-in-law's obsession, all captured in crystal clarity. Suddenly, a sound outside drew his attention, a car door slamming, a shadow passing the window. Rowan froze, head snapping toward the sound. Marion held her breath. The moment stretched unbearably, time dilated into a terrifying eternity. Then Rowan's frustration erupted into action. He reached for the drawer,
The envelope was not there. He tore through papers, scattering notes across the floor, his muttered curses louder, sharper. Ruth whispered, almost inaudibly, "Now." Marion pressed the remote on the second recorder, hidden strategically to capture the entire act. Every desperate move, every exclamation, every frantic search was preserved in high fidelity. Rowan's hands shook, his rage mounting, his plans unraveling in real time. Minutes later, he paused, chest heaving. He turned, muttering threats toward an empty apartment. "She'll pay for this. Lydia, she'll—" Marion felt the weight of the moment. She was no longer the victim. She was the observer, the collector, the one holding the strings. Rowan's desperation, Lydia's miscalculations, their hubris, all of it was about to become undeniable evidence. Ruth exhaled slowly. "We've got him. Every step, every word, every motion. It's all recorded." Marion's heart, still racing, settled slightly into the rhythm of victory. Not yet safe, not yet resolved, but armed, fully armed. The night, heavy and dark, had tilted in their favor, and soon the truth would break through the shadows. Outside, Rowan muttered once more, unaware of the silent net closing around him. And inside, Marion and Ruth began preparing for the next phase: confrontation, exposure, and justice.
Dawn crept slowly over the city, painting the streets with a fragile, gray light. Marion and Ruth had spent the night in silence, eyes glued to monitors, ears straining to catch any sound from Rowan's apartment. Their bodies ached, their nerves raw, but every moment of vigilance had paid off. Marion sipped lukewarm coffee, hands still trembling. "He won't stop until he finds it," she whispered. "And once he does—" Her voice trailed off, the thought of what could happen making her stomach knot. Ruth placed a steady hand on her shoulder. "That's why we act carefully. We don't confront him blindly. Not yet. Let him make the next mistake. Then we move." Through the night vision feed, Rowan's shadowed figure moved restlessly, pacing, muttering, his frustration sharp, untempered. Every word, every motion had been captured. They had what they needed: proof of intent, conspiracy, the entire plan laid bare. Marion exhaled, a mixture of fear and resolve coiling in her chest. "The envelope," she murmured. "We bait him with it." Ruth nodded. "Exactly. He takes the bait, he triggers the trap. Then we expose everything. Legally, irrevocably." They prepared the bait carefully. A duplicate envelope, identical to the original, placed in plain sight, yet wired with a small camera and a recorder. Every touch, every glance, every whisper would be captured. The apartment was ready. Evidence secured, no chance for error. Hours passed. Rowan's figure finally approached the bait, drawn by obsession. His hands trembled as he reached for the envelope, muttering curses under his breath. "Finally! Finally!" Marion's fingers hovered over the remote, heart hammering. Ruth's eyes were fixed on the monitor, silent but alert. Rowan opened the envelope. Inside, he found documents he believed were the originals: contracts, notes, financial statements, all carefully staged. His expression changed from greed to triumph, unaware that every reaction, every muttered word, every gesture was being recorded in crystal clarity. He leaned closer, voice rising. "Now we can fix this. Everything will be ours. Lydia, you'll see. Everything's perfect." Marion's blood ran cold at the mention of her daughter's name. Yet, amidst fear, a spark of righteous fury flared. This was the culmination of months of betrayal, now finally exposed. Ruth's hand tapped the phone, sending encrypted live footage to their attorney and the police. Every second was recorded, time-stamped, and secured.
This was undeniable proof. Rowan and Lydia could not claim ignorance. Minutes stretched like hours. Rowan continued to rattle through the staged documents, unaware of the silent observers outside his apartment. Each movement, each phrase, a nail in the coffin of his schemes. Then, at last, the trap was triggered. The front door alarm, previously silent, chimed softly, startling him. He spun around, hands in the air, muttering threats and curses. And at that precise moment, a knock echoed through the apartment. "Police, nobody move." Rowan froze. The light of comprehension flickered in his eyes, panic replacing greed. Marian's stomach clenched as she watched through the monitors. Her heart pounded violently, fear, relief, and anger all mixing in an overwhelming surge. Through the window, uniformed officers moved swiftly, entering the apartment in a calculated professional sweep. Rowan's hands trembled as they cuffed him. Every action had been captured on camera, every word recorded in high fidelity.